I've heard the way that an account executive talks about their job over a beer. And I leverage some of those insights to position the job because that's the stuff you're not going to find in anybody else's job description.
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenley, and welcome to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today, we have an amazing interview ahead of us, but before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show. Sometimes, like today, we have interviews with industry thought leaders and others who are shaking up the space, and they're going to teach you how to do something that they do that's helped them be successful with their recruiting efforts. Other days, we cover trending topics, items that recruiters are talking about or will be very soon and what those mean for them. Drop by every Tuesday. We have Tactical Tuesday episodes where we go deep on how to do something that you're going to be able to action on in your day-to-day as soon as you listen. Sometimes we open it up for Q&A. Listeners drop in questions that they'd like to hear us take on. Send those to us at podcast@loxo.co. And every now and then, you'll hear a mic drop episode from our CEO, Matt, where he stops by to share something that he's been thinking about within the recruitment space and thinks you should know. All right, today I have an incredible guest joining us for a conversation. It's really fun because I've worked with her in a previous role, so I love when worlds can collide with different efforts like this. But I'll tee it up with the start of a post that she shared not too long ago. Yesterday, I wrote a hiring post that got 50,000 impressions and generated dozens of applications. Depending on how you want to look at it, this saved our company $1,700 to $30,000. So I bet that's got your attention, right? And if you truly want to attract top talent, the common I'm hiring posts and linking to the bland job descriptions, those items, like they aren't going to compel those people to join you. So you need and want to attract top talent, right? And that's exactly what we're going to get into today. So with that, I'm excited to announce our guest today, MJ Smith, CMO from CoLab. MJ, welcome to the show.
Sam, thanks for having me. I feel like I got a sneak peek into your podcast strategy through the intro there.
I love it. Well, yeah, feel free to steal. So one of the things I'm looking forward to the most in this conversation is something that you actually shared with me in Slack when we were coordinating this episode. You said, quote unquote, like, I'm obsessed with being a strong recruiting hiring manager and felt I was totally ill-equipped when I first became one. So you've started to really flex those muscles, obviously, because what spurred this conversation was you were hiring for an account executive position that you opened up just over a month ago. So tell me a little bit about that position, and then we'll start taking the conversation from there.
Yeah, so in my role as CMO at CoLab, I own the pipeline, right? So I own a number, which is creating qualified sales opportunities for our sales team to knock down, right? I set up the pins, they knock them down. And so, as we are successful on that side of the equation, we need to continue growing our sales team. And we have done our job in the first half of the year, and we need to expand the capacity of our account executive team because we have enough opportunities in the pipeline to support a couple more AEs. We have a very complex sale at CoLab. So we sell a platform product to a technical buyer. So platform product is pretty complicated because you can bundle together lots of different features that might be interesting, might be not interesting, depending on the person's use case. And then technical buyer just means that you got to come to the table not only as a sales expert, but as a technical expert that can have like a high level conversation with someone. So really high bar for this role, but also really important for me because, when I line up that pipeline and my team lines up that pipeline, we want to see it close on the other end. So I was really invested in it. And obviously I have a personal brand, so wanted to put that to work for the company a little bit.
Yeah. And so you didn't go about this the way that most recruiters, especially like in-house recruiters or hiring managers do. Your post, I don't know if we want to read it or not, but it caught my eye. And that was one of the first things that you pointed out the following day was it got 50,000 impressions. You got dozens of applications right off the bat. And again, this wasn't just you posting it on the website and people came inbound to you. It wasn't going and throwing it on Indeed, Monster, one of the job boards. Like you methodically, or not methodically, you had a strategy with this. So I guess I'd love to hear a little bit more about like that thought process. Like what was the aha moment when you knew that the approach to hiring that most people take isn't really the right one and you did want to go this little bit of a different route?
Yeah. So I think like broadly, there's two approaches to hiring, right? You've got the approach of post it on Indeed, post it on LinkedIn, post it on Monster, see who you get inbound. And I think a lot of people believe that that's like good enough because they only see like the quantitative results. It's like, oh, we got 200 applications, right? What you often don't see is that of those 200 applications, 198 of them are not qualified applicants. And so really you got two applications. And then the other flip side of it would be getting a recruiting firm or an in-house recruiter to do outbound. And in general, I think that tends to produce slightly better results because you're cherry picking people that are not even potentially in the market for a role, but that you've kind of like pre-vetted that you want to reach out to them. However, obviously for every X number of messages you send out to people, you're only going to get a percentage of responses. And you don't know if that person's going to be interested in the role. So I went for a third approach, and I've done this a couple times now. That specific post you're referring to is definitely one of the more successful times where it like went more viral and generated more applications. But what I have access to is like a community of people in SaaS and in industrial because I post content regularly on my own LinkedIn. So it's like I know that I can get some reach on a recruiting post because of that. But I also think it's really important to write a well-crafted recruiting post. Like at the end of the day, I think I said this in my follow-up post. Like recruiting or a job post is a marketing exercise, right? So like you have to position the role for the right candidate. And you have to like go beyond just like generic requirements and descriptions language. Like you don't want to be copying pasting from everybody else's job descriptions. You want to highlight like for the exact right person, what are the exact like pain points that you want to solve for by offering this ideal combination of roles. So that's what I try to really bring to life in the copy. And I treat recruiting as a marketing exercise because I think that's how you're going to generate the most conversions, if you will, which at the end of the day brings you applicants. And those applicants, unlike the applicants that you're getting inbound that are like are qualified out of 200, those applicants, I find if you generate like 20 applicants that are inbound from that type of recruiting exercise, you're going to get like 15 or 16 of the 20 that are super qualified because they've self-selected from like a really clear message that you put out there.
Mm-hmm. I have so many questions and thoughts right now. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to go down first with you. Start with the top of my notes. So the first thing you said, or one of the first things you said, was that you post regularly, and you do that. I know you curate your network very intentionally. So your network is filled with people, like you said, in the industrial space, people who are marketers, people who are sales reps. You've done that previously as well. And so by posting regularly and sharing content with them, you have people that are also in the space that you would potentially want to hire. So you said earlier, like you generate your own goodwill with that. And so one thing that I think is interesting is that you then have people that are kind of like ICP, potentially for your company, but also that would be great employees as well. So either they might put their name in a hat for something that they might be happy in their role, but they could have had like a dream list. I'd love to work with MJ. I'd love to work at CoLab. So either they might apply, or they've probably got a really strong network of very similar people that would be great, and they would pass that along. You see it all the time, like comment for reach, or they'll share it on Slack with other members of their network. So I really like that. What I want to talk a little bit more with you about is you were talking about the well-crafted message. It's a marketing exercise. You're a product marketer at heart, I know. So positioning and speaking to them, I think what most people won't get is, and this is something from marketing, you always learn if you go too broad, it's going to attract no one. So you got very specific, as you said, with the pain points and some of the things that you were going after. So I guess tell me a little bit about how you approached that, coming from, this was an account executive. So again, you're CMO. I know you said that you do on pipeline and everything, but how did you do the research, thinking about if you're a recruiter, you're trying to fill a position that isn't a recruiter? How do you learn, like, what are those pain points, or was there anything that helped you craft that?
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to be made that this would actually be more challenging for a recruiter than it is for me, because at least marketing is sales adjacent, but also like I have a little bit of sales experience. I also just like am close friends with a lot of sales reps. So, like, I've heard the way that an account executive talks about their job over a beer, right? And I leverage some of those insights to position the job because, like, that's the stuff you're not going to find in anybody else's job description. So, as an example, the way I position this role at CoLab, which is completely true of the role, I just got more specific than most people would, is we're in this in between phase between startup and like huge enterprise company. And for a lot of people, that's like the ideal time to join because too much startup is too early for a sales rep. You won't get enough pipeline and you won't get enough enablement in order to actually close enough deals to make money, right? And a lot of sales reps are like super money motivated. So if you don't get enough pipeline, you can't make enough money, and that's a deal breaker for them. Equally, a lot of sales reps are like pretty entrepreneurial. I mean, sales is a pretty entrepreneurial profession as a rule, and they don't like being in too big of a company because like you're a cog in the machine and you got to put all your deals through deal desk and blah 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 blah, right? And so like being joining that company at the time where you're gonna get a lot of pipeline, but you still get to be part of the building of the sales process in the company. And also, by the way, there's a lot of upside there in terms of like moving the leadership and all of that good stuff. For a lot of people, that's the ideal situation. And they've been in the less than ideal situation before. They felt like a cog in the machine, or they've felt what it's like to not get any pipeline and have to scramble for it themselves. And so by just talking about that and the sweet spot that CoLab is in, I got a lot of people that reached out to me and like, oh my God, it sucks that I have to generate all my own pipeline, or oh my God, like I'm looking for an opportunity to do more building, right? And so it's like clearly it resonated with people because I painted a picture of what their world could be like at CoLab that is based on real insights from what their world might look like today.
That's so smart. And it makes so much sense. But yeah, so many people don't get into that. It's like there's a lot of upside. Here's a compensation package or something else. But the the mental side of it, how you feel about your role, very few people are able to tap into that part of it where it's like you said, so many people either have been at the small side where it's frustrating because it's like we're still trying to establish product market fit and I'm not getting deals, or I'm one of 500 sales reps and I all that. So yeah, I love that. Okay. Going down the next level. So this post was successful, like you said. And if we look back to earlier in your career when you said, you felt you were totally ill-equipped when you first became a hiring manager, you learn best from failures typically. I know those are some of my favorites. So before you got to these super successful type of posts and you were working your way towards figuring out like what is the right combination, like do you have any stories about something that you were confident like this is absolutely going to work, I'm going to get a ton of applicants, or something that was really unexpected that worked, that you were just like, oh wow, I had no idea that something like that was even going to play out for us?
Yeah. I mean, when I first became a hiring manager, like I didn't even know how to write a job description. So I was just copying and pasting from other people's job descriptions. Like I kind of knew what like skills I wanted on the team. But yeah, I actually remember the first time I ever wrote a job description. I like sent it to my boss, who was the CEO. Like I have always worked at small companies, so like the first time I became a hiring manager, I was also the director of marketing, reporting to the CEO. And I remember he was like, "This is fine." He sent it back. "This is fine, but I would like you to rethink it with the following in mind, which is how can I turn this into a document that would get the exact right person super excited about this role?" So he knew this long, like that this was important long before I did, which is probably a sign of wisdom there. And like I at the time like hadn't gone down the rabbit hole of marketing and copywriting. I mean, I was in marketing, but I hadn't like really gone deep into like brand and copywriting. And I hadn't been writing on LinkedIn for very long. So I don't think I did a very good job of it. I tried to implement this feedback, but I actually think what has enabled me to do this well is like since 2019, I've written copy and posted on LinkedIn 2 or 3 times a week, pretty much for 4 years, right? And so you get writing on social, you get rapid feedback on your copy, you learn how to write more clearly, and it's just like a daily exercise with a rapid feedback loop and like brand and copywriting, and it actually translates quite well into marketing a job.
Yeah, it makes sense. I love it was such a simple question, and the way that he positioned it wasn't this is bad, go back, do it all over again, but think about this. What do you need to write in order to attract that right person? So that's a great position. I'm clearly a great leader and how they're going about it. So this is now my favorite part of the show, where I always say there's so many podcasts out there that are just like, cool, you were successful, tell me about your story, but they never tell you how to translate that. Like, how do I go and do that today? That's what I'm really in this for. So if someone wanted to start implementing this today, like your recent effort showcased how you went about it, and you even touched on 5 tips in your follow-up post. Do you want to walk us through those that I think some people could start to act on or keep in mind as they're going through this for themselves?
Yeah, I think we've touched on some of them already. So, like position the job for the
Hmm.
ideal candidate. In our case, the ideal candidate is unhappy being a cog in the machine and unhappy with not enough pipeline, right? And also a great sales rep, right? But there's like a positioning there. And I would give the same advice to a marketer. It's like, you're not, you don't want to position it for like people who have sales experience, 5+ years of sales experience. You want to position it for like very specific traits, right? Get to that next nitty gritty level of detail, like what I described. What is the equivalent for whichever role you're hiring? Once you have an idea, like a picture in your head of like, this is the right person, then you can craft the job description, and you can craft your social post promoting it. Um, I always like try to write a very engaging first 1 to 2 sentences in the social post. I would say, like, as a general rule, especially if you like have a network that wishes you well, right? Following you on social, if you ever kind of use the words "I'm hiring" in the first 2 sentences, like people will read it because they want to know what you're hiring for and they want to support you, right? So I always make sure to be like, this is a hiring post in the first 2 sentences, because nobody will see past the first 2 sentences unless they click to see more. So
Hmm.
it has to be like engaging and a bit of a hook. And "I'm hiring" is often a hook in and of itself, but then I'll use the rest of the body of the post to like elaborate on some of those really deep insights where it's like, this is the exact kind of person I'm looking for, that goes deeper than just like X years of experience and X industry and yada yada.
And one thing I like that you said is you talk about those. And earlier saying, you use the language of how a sales rep would talk about the job over a beer. And in your post, you even say, like, cut the buzzwords, make your post easy to read. So you're not getting this jargon filled message or anything that screams like, I mean, even recruiters now are using ChatGPT to write these, which is another problem in itself. But um having it being much more personalized, do you think that that helps to attract people to be like, not only is this a company I want to work for, but they seem to like, they get it. They seem like good people. It contributes to the culture. Do you find that it attracts people with a similar mindset or a certain kind of mindset that do tend to mesh better with the organization?
Yeah, well, I think really where this is helpful in filtering for the right kind of candidate is especially in those roles where like there's a there's some ambiguity or like a wide range of possible outcomes in the philosophy that someone might bring to the role. So I think marketing is a great example of this. We've got kind of 2 camps of demand gen versus lead gen, right? And the lead gen camp is all about um, marketing activities that you can measure, super granular, and the demand gen camp is more about like brand, and like we're going to measure revenue and pipeline, but we don't need to measure everything leading up to that, because there's a lot of there's a lot of different directions you could go. And so, just by virtue of myself and my personal brand around marketing, I think like a lot of the people that apply for marketing roles in my org kind of know that my marketing philosophy, and feel excited to be able to almost like apply to work for a leader that has a philosophy that they've validated already, because it's quite hard to validate someone's whole philosophy just in a hiring process that might be 3 conversations total. So I think just like being open and transparent about your leadership philosophy, your philosophy on your function and how to run it, like attracts like-minded people who are likely to just like slot in really well with the plan that you have.
Yeah. So it's almost in the quantity versus quality debate. Earlier you said you could go slap it on a job board, get 200 candidates, 198 are going to be super unqualified. If you put in the time to get really granular descriptive within here, you'll have candidates who do qualify or disqualify themselves. So you may have less applications, but much more, like you said earlier, are highly qualified or people that okay, if I do screen them, I'm going to have many more better conversations. It's worth it. So again, it's exercise of where do you want to spend your time on the front end writing a great post so you're going to have a better pipeline of candidates, or on the back end going through way too many resumes that you're just like, no, 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 and spending your time sifting through all of that. So yeah, you're going to spend the time. It just depends on how you want to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's even one step further than that. It's like philosophical alignment is a case in these roles like marketing, where you could execute marketing a lot of different ways, right? And it would still be product marketing, or it would still be demand generation, but like the way I execute demand generation is a lot different than the way somebody else would execute demand generation. And it's very difficult to screen for philosophical alignment in a bullet point requirements list, right?
Hmm.
But it's much easier to screen for philosophical alignment if you explain your philosophy like qualitatively using copy and allow candidates to self screen for it. It also gives candidates that care and that, would love to be at the top of the stack because they know they have, the raw material to really excel in this role, the opportunity to position their application better. Because I think a lot of people don't realize the risk of like overlooking an amazing candidate because, maybe they got screened out by some computer before you ever got to talk to them. And as someone who became a director of marketing at the first time with 3 total years of experience, I probably would have gotten screened over by most computers, but still did really well in that job.
Yeah, yeah, that's something that's. Oh, we could have another conversation in and of itself on that. And I know it's probably a lot of recruiters that, depending on the type of role that they're hiring for, it's like, well, I don't have the time to screen every single application or anything else. But I've done the same exact exercise when I was hiring not long ago, was going through, I was looking at every single candidate, and not only to figure out who do I want to advance, but in the follow up, if they weren't quite the person I was looking for, I still sent them a one-to-one outreach. I wasn't just going to say like, thanks for applying, we're moving on next. But it was, like, truly appreciate this. Want to let you know that you're not just, this wasn't an automatic screen. This is coming from a real person. It's me. Like, I did review your like this. Let me know if I can help you with your career. That will pay off too, because even if they're not the right person with you, they might refer other people. Again, so it's keeping that relationship flywheel going.
Yeah, I've had people that we did not offer a job to refer people into later jobs that we had open. Like if you like, you can build trust and build a relationship through a recruiting process, even if that recruiting process does not result in an offer.
Yeah, especially with your network. If those are people who are potential clients of yours, you don't want to don't want to get off on a bad foot with that. So now that we've explained a lot of like how you do this and everything else, just today we were laughing about this. You posted a new position for a marketing leader that you're hiring. So do you want to read that for us? If you have it up, like I'd love for you to read through it so people can hear like how you're taking this approach that you've been speaking about of like, flex your copywriting skills. Here's how to write it for social. And just kind of go through, this is what it looks like in practice, because it's easy to say like do these 5 things, but sometimes when they're able to tangibly hear or read it in real life, that's where they can start to connect the dots.
Yes, sure. I'll read a little bit at a time, and then I'll tell you the reasoning
Okay,
for why I wrote it
perfect.
this way. So, first 2 sentences. This is what shows up. I'm going to call it above the fold on LinkedIn. This is the only 2 sentences that anyone will see unless they opt into seeing more. So, those 2 sentences I wrote. I've been excited about this for weeks, and today it was finally official. I'm hiring for CoLab's first ever director level marketing hire. Could this be you? Here's the details. So, like I said, I like to use I'm hiring in the hook because I just know that like I have a network of people on LinkedIn that will support me. So even if this isn't the role for them, they're still going to like it and share it and comment on it. So like it'll boost engagement and then it'll boost my reach, right? So I'll get in front of more prospective people. And then I, in this case, chose to put first director level marketing hire because it's like a quick screen. I'm looking for director level applicants and just the first director on the team. Like that's exciting, right? Okay, let's learn more. Let's see what this role is all about. And that's what I get into in the next couple of sentences. So I'll pause there and then I'll do the next part. But anything you want to unpack about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's smart one. You're getting that hook, you're catching people's attention, and you've already started that qualification. First ever director level, certain seniority, and also someone who understands, okay, I'm the first director. There's going to be certain things I have to build. They have to want to do that type of thing. They also have to like managing people. So there's a lot within there that is already going to help you go from this giant pool of anyone that's in marketing to, okay, we're going to start whittling this down some.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So then we move on, and I say, first of all, we're hiring this role because we are growing and marketing is driving a lot of the growth. We're doubling down. It's an investment. You'll be joining to accelerate momentum, but you'll have enough breathing room to build for the long term. This is the part where I'm talking about validated pain points that I know that marketers experience. So one of the biggest things you'll see marketers talk about it all the time is like short-term mindset just kills your ability to be creative. And so I know there's a lot of great content marketing, product marketing people, and that's this role is, it kind of has a bent towards those things that just like feel stifled by the environment they're in, where they cannot ever focus on the long term or take creative like strategic bets because they're being forced to just spend all of their days kind of operating like a cog in the machine to hit one or two short-term minded metrics. And so those two sentences are like, hey, if you're looking for the rare opportunity where this is the case, this is it, right? So it's a positioning mechanism. Those next two sentences.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. And then I get into just like description of basically who we're looking for, right? So you'll own content, product marketing, and sales enablement. That's important because marketing is broad and it includes a lot of different disciplines. And I want to make it clear that specifically for this role, it doesn't own demand generation because we have a person who owns demand generation already. Role reports to me. You'll lead a team of 2 people on day 1 with the opportunity to grow a team in the future. Director is kind of a weird title in marketing. Sometimes you don't actually have a team. Also, I think some people are really interested in the opportunity to build a team, right? So I think it's important for people to know you'll have a team on day 1. It's also a screening mechanism for people that don't want to lead other people because this is a people leadership role. But yes, it's a role where there's like some growth opportunity and where you'll get a team right away if that's important to you. Okay, this one is a big deal. Even though this is a leadership role, there will be lots of hands-on work, especially in the beginning. We are looking for someone that's enthusiastic about being a player coach. A lot of marketing people just like to be in the ivory tower of strategy, and that is definitely not who I'm looking for. So I just want to be really upfront and transparent that like this is a role where you got to do stuff. I do not think that managing 2 people is ever a full-time role anywhere. But listen, I'm a CMO. My team is 10 people, about to be 11, and I still do stuff, right? So this isn't an unrealistic expectation, but I do want to make my expectations clear. So I'll pause there again.
Yeah, a lot of people, like you said, it's when they hit certain titles, like I don't have to do the work anymore. I can hire people. I can hire smart people. I'll move the chessboard around and they can make it happen. But I also think that this is a huge opportunity for you because there are, I don't know what the percentage is. I'm going to make this up. 5 to 10% of the market. There are not the micromanaging type directors, VPs, but the people who they genuinely enjoy doing still because that's how they learn. And that's why I think these people are so successful. They retain that growth mindset for so long that's why they enjoy this type of thing. So calling that out, like you said, that's going to weed a bunch of people out, but it's also going to attract a heck of a lot more of the right people because I think there are people that are scared that they'll be too far removed from the day to day. And that's sometimes the part that they enjoy or heavily enjoy alongside the team management.
Yeah, this is also one of those sentences that like a candidate who really cares about getting through the screen and into a conversation with me can use to their advantage, right? Because CoLab asks like 3 or 4 open-ended questions in the application, which I know probably reduces our conversion rate, right? It's not easy apply, but it's like one of them is just like, why do you want to work at CoLab? And like if somebody writes about how they love to roll up their sleeves and do some execution, but also have a seat at the table with regard to strategy because they're responding to this prompt that I gave them, that's like going to much more likely get their resume to the top of the stack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, what do we got next? The ideal candidate is either a product marketer that's craving more ownership over the execution or a content marketer that insists on doing their own customer research. So this is another area where I'm using insights about the ideal candidate profile. I think it just makes it really clear. Again, like I'm not looking for paid media folks. There's a lot of great director level marketing people that slant more that way. I'm looking for product marketing or content marketing folks. It's not super common for someone to own both, but I do think they naturally play well with each other. And I think either of those backgrounds could do really well in this role, assuming that they have enough of a curiosity about the other piece of it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like they used to be so siloed, but the more you think about how did content messaging and the attraction of your market in today's world happens, like the more that those two can blend together, and as more marketers kind of get that like T-shaped and not so I'm a specialist in this, I'm a specialist in that, those two do overlap really well. And when you find that person, they're a perfect fit for this exact type of opportunity.
Yep, it's another opportunity for somebody who's reading this closely to make themselves stand out on the screen. All right, now this is where I really sell it. I kind of end all of my posts on LinkedIn with a fairly punchy like final closing statement. But this is just like I'm almost showing a little bit of vulnerability. I feel like this is raw and transparent. Like this is the stuff that is really hard to convey in just a bunch of bullet points. But I think this is the difference between this being like a fine role that checks all your boxes and like the role, like your dream role, you know? And so here it goes. It says, the reason I'm excited about this role is that I've been owning a lot of these things myself so far. Every day I see the momentum building and I can feel the potential for the right person to come in, take it to the next level, and drive insane impact. I came to CoLab for the ability to do something career defining. Feel like I'm right in the middle of that in my role. I think this could be one of those career defining opportunities as well. Link in the comments to apply. DMs are wide open.
Mm, chef's kiss. Yeah. I mean, it, it's a call to action. It's not a call to action, but it really like it hits that emotional side of you where it just compels you. You know, you're in your head, you're like, this could be cool, this could be interesting. And then it taps into that, I don't know, not the dopamine side of you, but it makes you just want to either root for you and finding the right person for it, or it's like, hell yeah, let's do it. I'm that person. Let me go check
Yeah.
this out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, it's punchy, it's fun, but yeah, it just shows like I don't know. I sometimes refer to that as like the squishy stuff. Like
Hmm.
it's squishy, it's not tangible, but it's important, right? I think it's an important. It's like it could be the differentiator between just any role
Yeah.
and this one
Oh yeah.
specifically.
Makes such an impact. And I just refreshed this because I wanted to speak to it. So this post has been up for 3 hours. You have 240 likes, 38 comments, and you've had 13 people repost it already. Like 3 hours, and you're already getting that kind of traction. So I mean, give it a day and you're going to see what kind of thing happens. But that's the difference between I'm hiring, come check out this job description, and then it's like meh. So it lands with people, it resonates, it definitely attracts the right individuals, and I'm sure that people could go and check out. It sounds like you touched on earlier, it's like you don't just drive people to the easy apply, you have some screening questions. And again, I think we can stop on that for just a few seconds, because one, it's going to help disqualify the right people. But some of those questions in there, they give you pretty quick insight into if someone would be a good fit, not a good fit. So you mentioned if it's someone who explains their experience of I do enjoy the player coach style, I want to get my hands dirty, anything else. I've even looked at this approach when I was hiring on the marketing team here. I wasn't asking a crazy amount, but I was just like, for the creative side, I was like, include your portfolio or something else. And there was a really interesting parallel between one, the people that could even just read the description and attach it. And I was like, okay, if you didn't include a portfolio, I'm going to screen you out because attention to detail. But then there was a next level. I didn't ask for a cover letter, but there
Mhm.
were a small percentage of people who added that. And I know there's this big discussion around, do I do a cover letter? Do I not do a cover letter? But to me, I read every single one of those. To me, if you're including that when most people aren't and you're going above and beyond, that's an indicator of your work ethic. That's an indicator of the initiative that you might take or other things. So what are some of the other questions or other types of in that application, what else are you asking that are helping to give you some of those insights?
Yeah, we don't ask that many questions, but I always find it especially for like a role like this, where it's literally like you're positioning yourself, it's you're being
Hmm.
a product marketer, and now you're writing content, you're filling out these questions. Like, can you translate the
Yeah.
positioning into the content? Right? It's like it's almost like a technical exercise. But like the people who jump to the top of the stack for me, and obviously our recruiter also screens people, so it's not just me, but the people that jump to the top of the stack for me are the people that use like the one or two questions we do ask to seriously differentiate themselves. So like there's really only two super open-ended ones that we ask. We ask, why are you interested in joining CoLab? And what is the thing that you are most proud of? Everything else is fairly closed-ended. Do you know anyone that works at CoLab? How did you hear about CoLab? That's an interesting one. I always know which people heard about it specifically from my post. And then like we'll ask a couple of screening questions around, are you eligible to work here? But we also ask people how to pronounce their names phonetically, so that we don't screw that up on the first screen.
It's interesting. That's definitely thoughtful because nobody, God knows how many times we get into interviews. You either wait for them awkwardly to say their name, or you're just like, I'm sorry, I know I'm gonna mispronounce this. Like, can you tell me before we even get into it? Or you have the people just flat out pronounce it incorrectly, and then you kind of do that awkward dance for a minute.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's interesting. All right. Last question. One of the last questions. I know we were just talking a little bit about metrics, and recruiters are gonna hate me for forever if I say like you should look at likes and comments for how well it lands. But when we start thinking about the timeline, the timeline that you see, especially you're in house, you partner with a recruiter. What indicators do you look at to understand? Like, is this posting successful? Are we attracting the right people? Like, just what are a few of the things that the two of you look at?
Yeah. So most roles at CoLab have a 3-step hiring process: recruiter screen, hiring manager screen, and then technical exercise presented to like a group of 3 or 4 people. Um, Ideally, we don't want to do the technical exercise with more than the top 2 to 4 candidates, right? And I mean, if you only have one role open, ideally, I mean, sometimes you just do it with one person, right? Because I don't actually want to be in the business of assigning people unpaid work if we're not seriously considering offering them a job. I have not offered people jobs after they put time into the technical exercise and turned around and sent them a gift card for their time, and referred them to other roles, right? Because I take that seriously. But it's still something that I think is a super valuable screen. So, I mean, in terms of what are we looking at? How many of the applications do we feel are worth moving to a actual face-to-face recruiter screen? Our hiring management system has like stars, right? 1 star to 5 stars. We'll usually screen everybody who's 4 stars or 5 stars. Some roles, if we don't get a lot of good people, we might end up screening 3-star candidates. So I think it's always a good sign when we're only screening 4 and 5-star candidates, or if it's a really good sign, we might only screen 5-star candidates, right? So that's the first test. How many people pass the recruiter screen? For us, our recruiter screen is like a decent chunk of it is just like, are you a polite, nice person who's happy to chat with the recruiter? You'd be shocked how many people treat the recruiter poorly on the screen. And then the hiring manager screen is obviously one level more difficult to pass, and then the technical is the most difficult to pass. So if we can even get like enough candidates to the technical that we're feeling like we saw a couple of versions of like somebody with the right skill set, and we're really confident that we've made an offer to the best person, like it's been a very successful recruiting process.
Yeah, makes sense. And with that, the account exec post we were saying right before, you've already extended 2 offers, and that was 30 days ago. So
Yeah.
you're being methodical. You have a very high bar, like you said. You're getting a few people through it, but again, 30 days for what you said was a very complex sales role with the types of conversations they need to be having with it being so product oriented. There's a high bar and a very finite pool of people who can meet that mark. But again, if you're attracting the right people, if you go through and have the right process to vet them, you're not trying to, I don't even know the expression right now. Like, it's not a needle in a haystack to find the right person. You can definitely do it in a good timeline and not have to decrease your or lower your bar in order to make that higher.
Yep. And both the people we extended offers to were inbound.
There you go. Another testament to it. So I love it. Well, this has been phenomenal. As I said, I'm so glad that we were able to catch up about this. And I love seeing that this approach. I think it's a perfect hybrid of inbound and outbound, because it's not just, you're posting to a board, you are leveraging the network that you have, the goodwill that you've created. But it still is very intentional with how you're writing it, how you're attracting the people that you want. And that's a conversation for another day. Writing job ads is not the same as writing a job description. Writing both of those well is an art in and of itself. So just want to thank you for coming on the show. Truly appreciate you sharing this knowledge with us today. I know that both recruiters, whether they're an agency or an in-house, are going to have a lot to learn from here, and hopefully they can start incorporating some of it in their day-to-day moving forward. So thank you for coming. Amazing episode. Hopefully I can't wait to see how that marketing hire works out for you, and maybe that'll go even quicker, make a phenomenal hire before we know it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's a topic I'm very passionate about. I think you ought to be passionate about it if you're in a role where you're hiring people. So yeah, appreciate the chance to come on, and looking forward to sharing the episode with my friends and fam on LinkedIn.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you, MJ.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.